Good morning, everyone. Joyce here, and I'm here to tell you about my experiences with a martial art world champion. His name is Jerry Fast Feet Fontanez. He's one of my karate instructors. I'm going to tell you how we met, my experiences with him, and what he brings to the martial arts today. I first met Jerry Fontanez at my instructor's tournament, Mr. Taime's tournament, the Battle of Westchester, where some of the most prestigious martial artists of the world has attended. And I made a list here of some of the people who did attend. And for those of you who are following this and are legends and pioneers, historians and champions of the martial arts, Hall of Famers, you know who you are. And your name is certainly on this list. And you all know that you did attend the Battle of Westchester. And it was people like you who made this tournament so successful. And the reason why I'm bringing up the Battle of Westchester, because it is where I first seen Master Fontanez. I seen him fight there, which I will tell you about. I seen his students compete there. And something that he achieved, which no one ever has done at the Battle of Westchester. But prior to getting to that, let me just introduce you to some of these people who helped make this tournament as successful as it was. Masters: Peter Irving, Henry Cho, Miyazaki, Aaron Banks, Nick Atler, Frank Ruiz, Thomas LaPuppet, Ronald Duncan, Bill Wallace, Paul Vizio, Cookie Melendez, Earl Monroe, Earl Bennett, Wildcat Molina, Lamar Thornton, Wilfredo Rodan, Hector Negron, Nato Gomez, Chris Colombo, David Washington, Chuck Zito, Doug Peoples, Kevin Bruton, and arbitrating Ray Bradley, Charles Montgomery, and towards the end, even myself. Now these people, we all know them as masters of the martial arts, pioneers, legends, champions, and they came in droves. They brought their students. People came from other countries, not just to compete, but to be part of such a legendary experience. And like I said, this video is about my introduction to Jerry Fontanez. What does Jerry Fontanez and the Battle of Westchester have to do with each other? Well, there was also many competitors who went there to fighting forms. Let me just run that off before my Jerry Fontanez experience. Rupert O'Brien, Billy Blank, Steve Nasty Anderson, Kevin Thompson, Cynthia Rothrock, John Chung, Derek Williams, Abdul Aziz, Khalif Karate Pete Williams, John the Fighting Irish O'Leary, Anthony Arango, Sifu Raul Ortiz, Sifu Benson Lee, Garth Binns, Jesse Ray, Swift Roman, The Wiz, Hector Delgado, Chris Styles, and many more. Now, as martial artists, you know the people's names who I just spoke about. You'll see them throughout the country if you were to attend several national rated events. Now here you have a regional tournament, which actually Boyce Lydell was begging at Grandmaster Junior's tournament, was begging Tommy May to go national, but he was comfortable with a regional tournament, and rightfully so. The people who I just named are legendary, masters, champions, historians of the martial arts. Now, weekend warriors now, let's not get this wrong. It's not someone who was a martial artist. You don't join for 1 year, 2 years, or 10 years. These people started martial arts and still doing it to this day. And at that tournament, I seen this young Puerto Rican kid from the Bronx, yelling, shouting, screaming. Major students behind him. He probably came with about 50 students. And we all know his two famous lines, A-B, see ya, and 1, 2, 3, ho! I mean, we heard it for years. Some people liked it. Some people thought it was obnoxious. It was entertaining. Regardless of how you felt, you know, I would have to squeeze in, and I would get my glance on to see what was going on, and there he was. And the reason why I was squeezing in, there was probably about 100 people circling around this fight. They all want to see Fast Feet fight. So I did see him fight. It's we actually have the video footage, him and I. You can see me standing on the sidelines. He was successful, and he won Grand Champion. But the thing that stood out in this prestigious tournament, the Battle of Westchester, Mr. Tommy May's Battle of Westchester, that stood out, is that Jerry Fontanez did not win it once, twice, or 3 times. He actually won it 4 times. And Master Tommy May, Jerry Fontanez, and myself will go out, and we kind of were speculating. There's a possibility that he might have won it a 5th time, but we are sure about the 4 times. And Master Khalif Williams did have a spin-off of the Battle of Westchester. I'll speak to you about that in a minute. I'll get back to that. Long story short, Fontanez took grands in that as well. But he won the Battle of Westchester in fighting, men's fighting, 4 times, grand champion. Now, no one since almost 40 years of the history of the Battle of Westchester has ever accomplished that. And people think that's pretty unique. I personally do myself. There's no question about it, regardless of how you felt and how you didn't feel. Some people felt he was trying to be the Muhammad Ali of karate. Some people felt he was the Muhammad Ali of karate. One way or another, he was a very successful man. And he reached plateaus that many other has never reached before in actually the nation of our country. And one of the most popular tournaments in our country was Grandmaster June Reese, a man who was best friends with Bruce Lee, where they actually spent time at each other's house with their families, kids growing up together. And naturally, Bruce Lee Brett's tournaments. Sadly, he passed a few years back. I believe it was 2017, if I'm correct. Master Fontanez was able to make the attendance. Master Bruce Lee's wife, Chuck Norris, and many others. But I bring that tournament up for the simple fact, Master Tommy May, Chuck Cito, Master Fontanez, excuse me, sorry about that, I'm at my job. Master Tommy May, Chuck Cito, Master Fontanez, we were all out in the June Reese tournament in '95. And while I was reading the brochure, I noticed that Joe Louis was the only person who won it twice. Now, also on that name, among the names of Joe Louis winning this tournament twice, was Jerry Fontanez. Now, I didn't know that. You know, I just joined the school at the time. And I do got to get back to how I met him. Sorry. But I found it astonishing that he was among, some big names. And Joe Louis was the one who won it twice. Well, that year in 1995, Jerry Fontanez took the grand championship for the 2nd time to match Joe Louis. And once again, that is historical, and that is pretty astonishing. But now, the Battle of Westchester and Jerry Fontanez, I accomplished, you see that, a very prestigious tournament, a very prestigious martial artist, hands down, without a shadow of a doubt. But I seen him fighting there. I didn't meet him yet. I did see him fighting there. And several months later, he shows up at what Tommy May's Bronx Academy of Self-Defense. Tommy May had a dojo in New Rochelle in the Bronx. And Tommy introduces him, and I recognize him. And Tommy gives him his, his introduction, this world champion. His name is Grandmaster Jerry Fontanez. And he's coming in to get an application because he's going to compete again in the tournament. However, Tommy explained to him that this year they're going to have a defending champion. So they're going to honor his grand champion from the previous year. He doesn't have to fight his way all the way to the top again. He just has to wait to see who wins the overall championship of the day, and then he'll fight against Jerry for the defending champion. Well, that year was pretty interesting because that year Jerry Fontanez came in, and I didn't know at the time, but he was also the captain of his team. Team Totally Awesome, and they had the orange and the blue uniforms on. And ironically, the 2 people fighting for 1st and 2nd to see who's going to fight for grand champion happened to be 2 members of his team. Gene Boogie Frazier, one of my first fighting instructors at the Fontanez Academy, and Tony Top Gun Morrison. They fought it out for 1st and 2nd. Tony ended up winning, defeating Gene, and then, defeating Gene Boogie Frazier, and Tony ended up going against Master Fontanez, and as well as Tony fought, he did a great job. It was over for him. Master Fontanez dominated once again. And then I went to go speak to him, and he gave me his business card. And he certainly is a person who knows how to market, because when he handed me his business card, not only was it him in his karate stance, naturally with his name and his address on it, but it's a pretty unique karate stance. He was kicking extremely straight up in the air. and it's his logo today on his uniforms. He's an entrepreneur. You know, we all know that he invented the rec suits, wonderful uniforms. And so I joined his school, and I was pretty astonished to see Aaron Banks hanging out of his school. The curriculum was phenomenal, different than traditional. Not that one's better than the other. It's martial arts. It's great to know everything. And I think that Nick Atler did a wonderful job with Mr. Tommy May. So traditionally, you know, that certainly helped my background in the martial arts. And Master Fontanez, combined with open martial arts and traditional martial arts, he depicted the best of everything. Otherwise, he would not use it. And still to this day, he is enhancing all his knowledge. He's bettering his curriculum. He wants to perhaps one day get his black belts together and even elevate them on things that they've never even learned yet. And he won't stop. You know, you see him all the time on social media. He's very disappointed. I mean, he's in there banging, and they're in there tapping. He doesn't want it. You know, he says, this is nonsense. You know, you're teaching people false pretenses in your school. You go to tournaments and you're allowing this. This is no good. You know, his famous saying, you know, you can't just hit the backboard and get points. You got to get it in the net. And a lot of people agree with them. You know, they're taking away from martial arts. They're teaching children false pretenses, and they shouldn't. You know, this could be saving their lives. This is to enhance their lives, make them better and more confident people out here in this world. You know, so they can be successful in other areas as well. And Jerry, like I said, he's a great marketer, he's a good entrepreneur, and our relationship is fabulous. We do get together from time to time, and we'll have dinner. And if you'd like to know what we talk about, it's only one thing. It's very short and simple: karate. That's it, period. We really don't talk about anything else. We always stay in contact, and he's a phenomenal person to know, and I appreciate being one of his friends. And as a friend, he's definitely gave me great advice. One other thing outside of karate I can say about him, maybe it comes from karate, is that he's the type of person that understands there's a lot of stresses in this world, and he never turns his back on you. And he teaches you how to let it roll off your back, you know, diversify that stress in a more positive area, you know, and because there are pressures and challenges of the world. And he's a positive role model in that area. And, you know, he helps you in every which way, shape, or form, you know, and he's a great person, you know, and I love him forever. And thank God I got involved with him, you know. Thank God for Master May that he introduced me to the wonderful life of karate, because without that, I probably would never be in Master Fontanez's life, which I am today. And I'm sure I'll always be, because I'll always be a martial artist. And if you want to be a true martial artist like Master Fontanez, you can follow your dreams, follow your goals. Don't ever quit, you know. Don't ever stop, you know. It's not just a hobby here or there or something that you used to do. It's something that's a way of life. And if you want to know how he achieved his goals, it's because that's what he simply did. He made martial arts a way of life, you know, and always will be for him. And that's why he's so successful, and that's why he has so many followers. And he supports and helps so many people today. And we all love him for that. And us. Sir, I hope you enjoyed the video, and have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.